Beyond the Silence, Healing the Hidden Wounds of Loneliness. Introduction. You are not alone in this silence. If you are holding this book in your hands or reading it in the quiet moments when the world feels distant, it likely means something deep within you is searching. Not just for answers, but for a kind of recognition, a soft place to land where someone can finally say what you've been feeling all along, that this ache inside you matters, and that it doesn't make you less worthy of connection. Loneliness can be silent, but it is never empty. It holds stories, wounds, memories, and hopes that haven't yet found the light. It can show up quietly in the background of a busy life, or it can crash down loudly when the distractions fade. For many, it's a whisper that grows louder in the stillness, saying, "You're alone, and maybe you always will be." But let me tell you clearly, directly, and with all the truth that my 20 years as a psychologist have taught me, you are not alone in this silence. Over the years, I have sat with thousands of people who believed they were the only ones struggling with this invisible pain. People of all ages, backgrounds, professions, and personalities. People who were loved by others, yet didn't feel it. People who gave to everyone, yet felt no one saw them. People who smiled while their hearts quietly fractured beneath the surface. They were not broken. They were not hopeless. They were human and hungry for something that we all need, to be known, to be safe, and to belong. This book is a bridge. This book is not a lecture. It is not a list of shallow tips to fix you. It is a bridge from where you are now to where connection and healing become possible again. Here's what I want you to know as you begin. You do not need to pretend that everything is okay. You do not need to prove your pain to be worthy of healing. You do not need to walk this road alone. Wherever you are numb, anxious, withdrawn, exhausted, this is a place for you. Not because I have all the answers, but because I know the terrain. And I believe deeply in your ability to find your way back to yourself and to others. Healing begins with understanding. Throughout this book, we will look closely without shame at what loneliness really is, how it's formed, and how it can be transformed. You will discover that loneliness is not simply about the absence of people, but often about the absence of emotional safety, resonance, and meaning. Together, we will explore the hidden emotional wounds that feed disconnection. The patterns that keep us stuck in silence, even when we long to be seen. The gentle, powerful steps toward healing, beginning with compassion for yourself. And we will not just talk about pain. We will talk about resilience, belonging, and the courage to grow. You may feel tired, unsure, or hesitant. That's okay. You don't need to feel ready to begin. You only need to be open to the idea that healing is possible. You are not beyond reach. No matter how long you've felt this way. No matter how deep the ache. No matter how many times connection has failed or faded. You are not beyond reach. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling lonely. What you feel is not weakness, it is the expression of your capacity for connection. And that capacity has not disappeared. It is waiting. Quietly, patiently. For a moment like this. So welcome. Not to a fix, but to a journey. Not to a cure, but to a reconnection with yourself, with others, and with the world. Let this be the first step, not out of loneliness, but through it. Toward something deeper. Toward healing. Toward wholeness. You are not alone in this silence. And you do not have to stay there. Chapter 1, Understanding Loneliness, More Than Just Being Alone. Loneliness is often misunderstood. It is too easily equated with being physically alone, too often dismissed as a minor discomfort, and too rarely seen for what it truly is, a deep, human longing for emotional connection and meaningful presence. If you've ever felt the sharp ache of being surrounded by people and yet feeling invisible, you already know, loneliness has little to do with proximity and everything to do with emotional resonance. In this chapter, we will define what loneliness truly is, distinguish it from solitude, and explore why it carries such a heavy emotional weight. Solitude versus loneliness. Let's start by making a vital distinction. Solitude is the state of being alone by choice. It is a space where you can reflect, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. Solitude is often sought after by people who feel emotionally secure and self-connected. Loneliness, on the other hand, is the pain of being disconnected emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. It can occur in the middle of a family gathering, during a video call, or even in a romantic relationship. Loneliness is not about how many people are in your life, it's about how deeply you feel seen, heard, and valued. Solitude can be healing. Loneliness, when prolonged, can be corrosive to the mind and heart. The emotional core of loneliness. What makes loneliness so painful isn't just the lack of company, it's the perceived lack of meaningful emotional connection. It's the feeling that no one truly understands you, that your experiences or feelings go unnoticed, or that you carry your struggles silently while others seem effortlessly connected. At its core, loneliness touches some of our most primal emotional needs. To belong, to feel part of something larger than ourselves. To matter, to feel that our presence impacts others. To be seen and understood, to share our thoughts and feelings without fear of rejection. To be emotionally safe, to express vulnerability and still be accepted. When these needs go unmet, we begin to feel isolated not just socially, but existentially. It's not just that we are alone. It's that we fear we don't matter. The invisible weight. Loneliness can be hard to talk about because it often comes with shame. People fear being seen as needy, broken, or weak. So they cover it up by staying busy, staying silent, or putting on a smile. But the silence makes it worse. And the weight grows heavier. Here are some of the common ways loneliness manifests emotionally and physically. A sense of emptiness, even during activities that once brought joy. Increased anxiety or restlessness, especially in quiet moments. Difficulty sleeping or concentrating. A feeling of being disconnected from the world or out of sync. Negative self-talk, such as "I don't fit in" or "I'll always be alone." These symptoms are not exaggerations. They are signals. And like all emotional signals, they deserve to be listened to, not dismissed. Why emotional disconnection hurts so deeply. Human beings are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we rely on others for survival, not just physically, but emotionally. Our brains are social organs. We thrive in safe, nurturing relationships. When those are absent, we don't just feel discomfort. We feel threat, as if something essential to our survival is missing. That's because, in many ways, it is. Emotional disconnection undermines our sense of identity. Who am I if no one knows me? Our confidence, why can't I connect like others do? Our resilience, what's the point if no one's truly with me? Over time, chronic loneliness can lead to depression, anxiety, and a deep erosion of self-worth. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means your emotional system is sounding an alarm, and that alarm is asking for reconnection. You are not the only one. One of the cruelest effects of loneliness is that it convinces you you're the only one feeling this way. But you are not. Millions of people quietly, invisibly are feeling the same ache. It spans all ages, all cultures, all walks of life. Loneliness does not discriminate. It touches the teenager overwhelmed by social media comparisons. The adult in a crowded workplace who feels unknown. The elderly person who outlived close friends and family. The new parent struggling silently behind smiles. The professional who appears successful but feels empty inside. You are not isolated in your loneliness. And there is nothing shameful about longing for connection. It is a sign of your humanity, not your failure. Looking ahead. Loneliness is not just a condition. It is a message, one that says, I need to be seen, heard, and held in the company of others and myself. You've already taken a courageous step by naming your experience and seeking understanding. In the chapters to come, we will explore the deeper roots of emotional disconnection, the patterns that keep us isolated, and the practical, compassionate ways we can begin to reconnect with ourselves, with others, and with a life of meaning. Remember this as we continue: loneliness is not your identity. It is your signal. And healing begins with listening to it. Chapter 2: The Emotional Anatomy of Loneliness. Loneliness is not just a feeling, it is a full-body experience. It affects how we think, how we interpret the world, how we respond to others, and even how our physical body functions. When loneliness becomes chronic, it is not simply a passing emotion. It becomes a state of being, one that shapes our nervous system, our mental health, and our ability to connect. In this chapter, we will examine what loneliness does to the brain, the body, and the heart. Understanding this will help you realize that the pain you feel is real, not imagined or exaggerated, and that healing begins with recognizing the physiological and psychological forces at work. How loneliness affects the brain. When the brain senses a lack of connection, it doesn't just register that fact intellectually, it interprets it as a threat. This triggers a primitive, survival-based response rooted in our biology. Humans have evolved to live in groups. Being excluded or isolated in ancient times could mean danger or even death. The brain reacts to loneliness by activating the stress response. Cortisol, the stress hormone, increases. The brain becomes more alert to perceived threats in the environment, shifting into self-preservation mode. This leads to hypervigilance and increased sensitivity to social cues that may signal rejection or danger, changing how you interpret others. Lonely individuals are more likely to interpret neutral or ambiguous interactions as negative. A slow reply, a missed message, or a lack of eye contact may feel like rejection even when it's not. These reactions aren't flaws. They are the brain's attempt to protect you. But they often reinforce isolation, making it harder to reach out or trust again. Loneliness and the nervous system. The nervous system plays a central role in regulating our sense of safety and connection. It constantly scans the environment consciously and unconsciously asking, "Am I safe? Am I welcome? Am I seen?" When loneliness is chronic, the nervous system becomes dysregulated. The sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight, stays active longer. You may feel restless, anxious, or on edge. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest and connection, becomes harder to access. You may struggle to relax, feel numb, or withdraw emotionally. The vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the heart and gut, loses its tone. This can affect your digestion, sleep, and emotional balance. In short, loneliness puts your body into a prolonged state of tension and self-protection. This can make genuine connection feel unsafe even if it's exactly what you need. The emotional landscape of loneliness. The emotional effects of loneliness are wide-ranging. Some are subtle, others are intense. All are valid. Common emotional responses to loneliness include sadness, a quiet grief for something missing. Shame, a belief that your disconnection is your fault or a reflection of your worth. Fear, anxiety about reaching out, being judged, or being hurt again. Hopelessness, a sense that nothing will ever change. Resignation, the decision to stop trying, even though you still long for closeness. These emotions are not just mental, they are embodied experiences. You may feel them as tightness in the chest, a heavy stomach, fatigue, or a lump in the throat. Your body speaks the language of loneliness even when your mind cannot find the words. Why it becomes a cycle. Once loneliness takes hold, it often creates a self-reinforcing loop. You feel disconnected. Your brain perceives danger. You become more cautious and withdrawn. Others sense your distance and disengage. You interpret this as rejection. You feel more disconnected. The longer this cycle continues, the harder it becomes to interrupt it, especially if past experiences have taught you that connection leads to pain. But here's the truth, this cycle is powerful, but it is not permanent. You are not broken, you are responding. It's easy to feel like something is wrong with you if you struggle with loneliness. But from a psychological and physiological perspective, what you're experiencing is a very human response to unmet emotional needs. You avoid people not because you don't care but because you fear being hurt. You shut down not because you're cold but because you're overwhelmed. You struggle to trust not because you're broken but because trust has been broken before. Understanding this helps transform self-judgment into self-compassion. You're not defective. You're defending yourself. And once you recognize that, you can begin to explore new, safer ways to engage with others and yourself. Beginning the healing process. Healing from the emotional and physical effects of loneliness doesn't happen all at once. It begins with regulating your nervous system through practices like deep breathing, movement, or mindfulness. Becoming aware of your inner dialogue and shifting from criticism to care. Creating small moments of safety with yourself, with nature, or with one other person. Recognizing that you are not alone in your loneliness, and you are not weak for feeling it. Each of these steps restores your body's sense of safety and your heart's capacity for connection. Looking ahead. Now that you understand what loneliness does to your mind, body, and nervous system, you can begin to see that your pain is not irrational, it is a sign of your deep need and ability for connection. And that ability is still within you. In the next chapter, we will look at where these emotional patterns begin, often in childhood and early relationships, and how the past continues to shape your present experience of disconnection. The good news is that what was shaped by experience can be reshaped by awareness, care, and intentional healing. And that process has already begun. Chapter 3: Childhood, Trauma, and the Origins of Disconnection. Loneliness doesn't begin in adulthood. Often, its roots reach deep into the past, into moments we may not even consciously remember. Our earliest relationships set the foundation for how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and what we believe we deserve in terms of love, connection, and emotional safety. This chapter explores how childhood experiences and especially relational trauma can shape the way we form, or avoid, connections later in life. Understanding these origins is not about blame. It's about clarity. When we understand where disconnection began, we can begin to gently challenge its hold and form new ways of relating. The importance of early bonds. As infants, we rely entirely on caregivers for both physical survival and emotional development. These early interactions, how we are held, soothed, responded to, teach us fundamental truths about ourselves and the world. From these interactions, we form what psychologists call attachment styles, internal templates that guide how we expect others to treat us and how we believe we should behave in relationships. There are 4 primary attachment styles. Secure attachment. Developed when caregivers are consistently responsive and nurturing. These individuals tend to feel comfortable with intimacy and trust. Anxious attachment. Results from inconsistent caregiving, sometimes nurturing, sometimes neglectful. These individuals may cling to others, fear abandonment, and feel uncertain in relationships. Avoidant attachment. Formed when caregivers are emotionally distant or unresponsive. These individuals often suppress their needs, avoid vulnerability, and value independence over closeness. Disorganized attachment. Often the result of trauma, abuse, or chaotic caregiving. These individuals may both crave and fear connection, leading to confusion and emotional volatility. These attachment styles are not life sentences, but they do influence how we experience connection and loneliness. How emotional wounds lead to disconnection. If your early environment did not support emotional safety, you may have learned to associate closeness with discomfort or worse, danger. As a result, you may have developed protective behaviors such as keeping people at arm's length, even when you desire closeness. Being overly self-reliant, feeling that you can't count on others. Doubting your worth or feeling unlovable. Fearing rejection so deeply that you avoid initiating relationships. Becoming overly attached to those who give temporary attention, even if the relationship is unhealthy. These behaviors often develop without conscious choice. They are coping strategies, ways of surviving emotional uncertainty or pain. The role of childhood messages. In addition to caregiving behavior, the messages you received in childhood shape your emotional world. These messages might not have been spoken directly, but they were communicated through tone, response, and repeated experience. Some examples include: "You're too sensitive." Teaches children to distrust their emotions. "Be strong, don't cry." Implies that vulnerability is weakness. "Don't bother people with your problems." Encourages emotional suppression. "You're only loved when you behave a certain way." Associates love with performance. Over time, these messages can cause deep emotional wounds. You may come to believe that your needs are too much, your feelings are inconvenient, or that connection comes at the cost of authenticity. Trauma and the fear of intimacy. Trauma, whether emotional, physical, or relational, disrupts our sense of safety. It teaches the nervous system that the world is unpredictable, that people are dangerous, or that connection leads to pain. For many, loneliness isn't just the absence of others, it's a defense against potential harm. After trauma, the need for connection remains, but so does the fear. This creates an emotional tug-of-war. I want to be close, but I'm afraid to let anyone in. Recognizing this inner conflict is not a sign of failure. It's a signal that your system is trying to protect you, and that healing will involve rebuilding a sense of safety, first within yourself, then with others. You are not to blame for your loneliness. If disconnection started in childhood, it's important to say this clearly: none of this is your fault. You did not choose how others treated you. You did not decide to be hurt, ignored, or misunderstood. You adapted in the best ways you could, using the tools you had at the time. These adaptations, while once necessary, may no longer serve you. And that's where your power lies. What was shaped by pain can be reshaped by compassion, awareness, and new experiences. Steps toward healing relational wounds. Healing begins with understanding and continues through gentle, consistent action. Here are some ways to begin. Name your early experiences honestly. Without blame, reflect on the emotional tone of your childhood. What did you learn about love, worth, and connection? Validate your emotional needs. Recognize that needing closeness, affection, and understanding is human, not excessive or shameful. Challenge limiting beliefs. Notice beliefs like "I'm too much" or "no one will understand me." These may have been true in childhood, but they are not absolute truths. Seek emotionally safe relationships. Look for people who listen without judgment, respect boundaries, and offer consistency. Safety is the soil in which connection grows. Consider professional support. Therapy can help you process early wounds, develop emotional awareness, and practice new relational skills in a safe, guided space. Looking ahead. Loneliness that began in childhood is not your identity. It is a pattern, a deeply understandable one but not a permanent one. You are capable of creating new emotional experiences, new stories about who you are, and new ways of being in the world. In the next chapter, we'll explore how loneliness is often hidden, how we wear masks of competence, humor, or indifference to hide the hurt, and how we can begin to remove those masks with safety and care. You do not have to keep carrying this alone. You are not too damaged to connect. You are simply human, and healing is possible. Chapter 4: The Masks We Wear, Hiding Pain in Plain Sight. Loneliness is often invisible. Many people who suffer from it do so silently, behind carefully constructed images of strength, success, or social ease. They smile when they feel empty. They stay busy to avoid the silence. They show up for others but never reveal how much they long to be seen themselves. In this chapter, we will explore the concept of emotional masking, the ways we hide our pain behind socially acceptable facades, and how this coping strategy, while protective in the short term, can deepen disconnection over time. Understanding the masks we wear is the first step to gently removing them and learning to show up more authentically in our relationships. Why we hide our loneliness. Loneliness carries a powerful stigma. In a world that values independence, confidence, and constant productivity, admitting that you feel emotionally isolated can feel like admitting failure. So instead of speaking up, many people hide. Common reasons people conceal their loneliness. Shame, believing that being lonely means something is wrong with you. Fear of judgment, worrying others will see you as needy, weak, or inadequate. Fear of burdening others, not wanting to bring people down or appear emotionally dependent. Cultural expectations, being taught to suppress emotions or prioritize others over yourself. Habit, having learned early on that vulnerability was unsafe or unwelcome. These reasons are deeply human. They are not signs of weakness but signs of self-protection. Yet they come with a cost. The more we hide, the more disconnected we feel, not just from others, but from ourselves. Common masks we wear. The masks of emotional suppression often don't look like pain at all. They look like strength. Like success. Like being fine. But behind the surface is a different story. Here are some of the most common emotional masks and what they may be hiding. The achiever. Outward, busy, goal-oriented, successful. Inside, afraid that if they stop achieving, no one will value them. The caregiver. Outward, always there for others, emotionally giving. Inside, unsure how to receive support or express their own needs. The jokester. Outward, funny, entertaining, always light-hearted. Inside, using humor to avoid deeper feelings of emptiness or sadness. The loner by choice. Outward, independent, self-contained, doesn't need anyone. Inside, fearing rejection or intimacy, but deeply longing for connection. The optimist. Outward, positive, upbeat, always looking on the bright side. Inside, avoiding pain by denying or minimizing emotional truth. These roles may help us function, but they also keep us isolated. They prevent us from receiving the care, empathy, and closeness we deeply need. The emotional cost of suppression. When we suppress loneliness, we may succeed in appearing okay, but we also silence our inner voice. We cut ourselves off from opportunities for real connection. And over time, the cost grows. Consequences of long-term emotional suppression include chronic anxiety or irritability, emotional numbness or disconnection from joy, depression or low self-worth, relationship strain due to lack of authenticity, physical symptoms such as fatigue, insomnia, or tension, a persistent inner voice that says, "No one really knows me." The longer we pretend, the more distant we become from who we truly are. And the more difficult it becomes to break the cycle. Recognizing your own mask. If you've worn an emotional mask for a long time, it can be difficult to know where the mask ends and where you begin. Start by gently asking yourself, when do I feel the need to act okay even when I'm not? What parts of myself do I hide from others? Who in my life truly knows what I'm going through? What would I say or share if I felt completely safe? These questions are not meant to force vulnerability, but to open the door to emotional honesty with yourself first, and then gradually with others. The power of being seen. The paradox of vulnerability is this: we fear that if we show our real selves, we'll be rejected. But when we do open up safely and intentionally, we often find that people respond with compassion, not condemnation. To be seen is one of the most healing human experiences. It allows you to feel less alone in your emotions. Build trust through honesty. Invite deeper, more authentic connection. Create space for others to share their truth as well. You don't need to tear off the mask all at once. You can begin by sharing one real thought, one real feeling, with one real person. That is enough. That is a beginning. Letting go of the performance. You don't have to earn love by being perfect. You don't have to hide your needs to protect others. You don't have to stay strong all the time. The version of you that feels lonely, tender, or afraid is not a liability. It is the part of you that most longs for connection and is most capable of forming it. Healing begins not by changing who you are, but by reclaiming who you are beneath the mask. Looking ahead. In the next chapter, we will explore the role that society, technology, and culture play in shaping our experiences of loneliness. You'll discover that your struggle is not simply personal, it is also systemic. And by understanding the forces that influence your emotional world, you can begin to reclaim agency and choice in how you relate to others. But for now, hold this truth close: you are allowed to be real. You are allowed to be known. And behind the mask, there is someone worthy of love. Chapter 5: The Role of Society, Technology, and Culture. Loneliness is often viewed as a personal struggle, something rooted in one's emotions, relationships, or past. While this is true, it is only part of the story. Many people who feel lonely today are not failing to connect, they are living in a world that makes connection increasingly difficult. The environments we inhabit, the technologies we use, and the cultural norms we internalize all shape how we relate to ourselves and each other. In this chapter, we look beyond the individual and explore how modern life contributes to loneliness. Understanding these larger forces does not remove personal responsibility, but it does bring clarity and perhaps a measure of self-compassion for why connection can feel so hard. A society built on speed, not depth. Modern life moves fast. We work long hours, check notifications constantly, and jump from task to task in a cycle of productivity. While this efficiency offers convenience, it also comes at a cost. We spend less time being present, listening, and resting in meaningful connection. How speed affects connection. Deep conversations are replaced by brief texts. Presence is diluted by multitasking and mental distraction. Friendships become harder to maintain amid competing demands. Busyness often becomes a badge of honor. But in the race to do more, many of us feel emotionally emptier. Connection needs time, attention, and intentionality, qualities that are increasingly scarce in a culture driven by urgency. Social media, more visibility, less connection. Social media promised to make us more connected. And in many ways, it has. We can communicate instantly, share our thoughts broadly, and maintain ties across distance. But the kind of connection social media fosters is often shallow, performative, and comparison-driven. Ways social media can increase loneliness. Curation versus authenticity. People post highlight reels, not full realities. This creates unrealistic standards of happiness, success, and relationships. Quantity over quality. 100 likes may provide momentary validation, but they rarely satisfy the deeper need for emotional closeness and understanding. Passive consumption. Scrolling through others' lives can lead to feelings of inadequacy, isolation, or exclusion, especially if you are already feeling vulnerable. Disrupted attention. Notifications and digital engagement fragment our focus, making it harder to be fully present with others in real life. It's not that social media is inherently harmful. The issue lies in how it's used, how much it replaces face-to-face interaction, and how it shapes our self-worth and social behavior. The culture of individualism. In many modern societies, especially in the West, individualism is highly valued. We are taught to be self-sufficient, independent, and competitive. While these traits can support ambition and autonomy, they often discourage interdependence and emotional vulnerability. Messages often internalized from individualistic culture. Don't rely on anyone. Handle it yourself. Needing others is weak. Success is personal, not communal. These beliefs isolate us. They teach us to suffer silently, to hide emotional needs, and to equate connection with dependence or loss of control. In reality, healthy connection is not dependency, it is a fundamental part of well-being. Capitalism and the commodification of connection. In a market-driven world, almost everything including relationships can feel like a transaction. Dating apps, networking events, influencer culture, and self-branding all contribute to the idea that we must be desirable, impressive, or useful to be worthy of attention. This commodification leads to anxiety about not being enough to attract connection, exhaustion from constantly curating identity, feelings of disconnection even when socially active. Real intimacy cannot thrive in an environment where people are measured more by what they produce or present than by who they truly are. The erosion of community spaces. In past generations, connection often grew from shared spaces and routines, places where people gathered not just for tasks, but for belonging. These included religious institutions, neighborhood events, clubs, unions, or civic groups, local stores and gathering places. Today, many of these spaces have diminished or disappeared, replaced by remote work, online interactions, or mobile lifestyles. While the internet offers global reach, it can't fully replicate the emotional resonance of consistent, in-person presence. What can be done? While these societal factors may seem beyond individual control, change begins with awareness. When we understand how culture and technology shape our emotional lives, we can begin to choose differently. Ways to respond consciously. Slow down. Create space for rest, reflection, and deep conversation, especially in your closest relationships. Curate your digital life. Follow people and pages that foster truth and connection. Set boundaries on screen time. Challenge cultural narratives. Redefine strength to include vulnerability. Redefine success to include connection. Seek or create community. Look for opportunities to gather formally or informally. You don't need a large group. A few consistent connections matter deeply. Be a source of authenticity. The more you show up with honesty, the more you invite others to do the same. Real connection begins with real presence. Looking ahead. You do not live in a vacuum. If you struggle with connection, it's not simply because you haven't tried hard enough. It's because you are living in a world that has made deep connection harder to access. But knowing this empowers you to move with intention. In the next chapter, we'll turn the focus inward to the first and most vital relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. Reconnecting with others begins by reconnecting with your own emotions, needs, and inner voice. That is where healing starts. That is where silence begins to break. Chapter 6, Reconnecting with Yourself, the First Step. When loneliness takes hold, it often convinces us that the problem is out there, that we simply need someone to come along and understand us, accept us, or rescue us from the ache. But while relationships are vital, the first and most crucial connection you must restore is the one with yourself. Reconnection begins not by looking outward, but by looking inward with honesty, gentleness, and courage. You may not be able to control how others relate to you, but you can change how you relate to your own thoughts, emotions, and needs. And that, more than anything, lays the foundation for healing. In this chapter, we'll explore how self-awareness, self-compassion, and emotional regulation can help you shift from self-abandonment to self-connection, and why this step is essential before lasting relationships with others can be built. Why reconnecting with yourself comes first. When you feel disconnected from others, it's common to also lose touch with your own inner world. You might struggle to know what you need, how you feel, or who you are outside of your pain. Some signs of inner disconnection include frequently distracting yourself to avoid being alone with your thoughts, struggling to identify or name your emotions, being overly critical of yourself without realizing it, feeling numb or checked out in daily life, losing interest in things you used to care about. Rebuilding your internal connection allows you to become a more compassionate and reliable companion to yourself, no longer waiting for someone else to rescue you, but learning to meet your own needs with care and clarity. Step 1. Self-awareness, noticing without judgment. Self-awareness is the practice of observing your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with curiosity instead of criticism. It doesn't mean overanalyzing or fixing everything. It means learning to notice what's happening inside you with honesty and patience. Begin by asking, what am I feeling right now? Sad? Tired? Anxious? Lonely? What might have triggered this feeling? What is my body trying to tell me through tension, fatigue, or restlessness? Are my thoughts kind, neutral, or self-critical? The goal is not to judge your emotions, but to name them. What we name, we can understand. What we understand, we can care for. Step 2. Self-compassion, responding with kindness. Self-compassion is often the missing ingredient in emotional healing. It's not about self-pity or avoidance. It is about offering yourself the same gentleness you would offer a close friend who is hurting. Practice self-compassion by speaking to yourself with kind and soothing words. This is hard, but I'm doing my best. Acknowledging your pain without minimizing it. Of course I feel lonely, this matters. Letting go of harsh self-talk, replace what's wrong with me, with what do I need right now. Being kind to yourself may feel awkward or unfamiliar at first. That's okay. Like any new skill, it takes repetition. But every small act of compassion strengthens your sense of safety and self-worth. Step 3. Emotional regulation, staying present in the storm. When painful emotions rise such as grief, fear, or shame, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or shut down. Emotional regulation is the ability to stay grounded and centered, even when your inner world feels chaotic. Helpful regulation practices include breathing deeply. Slow, deep breaths help calm the nervous system. Body scanning, gently bring awareness to different parts of your body, noticing where tension lies. Grounding techniques, engage your senses, touch, smell, sight, to bring yourself into the present moment. Naming your feeling, say silently or aloud, I'm feeling sad right now, to create space between you and the emotion. Regulation does not mean suppressing emotions. It means creating enough internal space to feel them without being consumed by them. The importance of rituals and routine. Consistency helps rebuild a sense of internal security. Simple daily rituals can remind you that you matter and that you're showing up for yourself, even in small ways. Try incorporating a morning check-in, what do I need today? Journaling before bed, reflecting on one emotion you felt and one kind thing you did. Time in nature, even for a few minutes. A screen-free hour to read, rest, or reflect. These actions may seem small, but they reinforce the message that you are worthy of care. Reclaiming your inner voice. Often, loneliness is not just the absence of others, it's the loss of connection with your inner truth. Reconnecting with yourself also means getting back in touch with your interests, values, and desires. Ask yourself, what lights me up, even just a little? What did I enjoy before I felt this way? What would I do if I weren't afraid of failing or being judged? What kind of person do I want to become? Your answers may not come all at once. But each reflection brings you closer to the center of who you are. You are already on your way. If you are reading this and reflecting on your experience, then you have already begun the journey of self-reconnection. You are paying attention. You are showing up. That matters more than you know. You don't have to become someone else to be loved or healed. You only have to become more present with who you already are. And from that presence, connection can begin to grow first within, then outward. Looking ahead. Now that you've begun to reconnect with yourself, the next step is learning how to build trust and emotional safety with others. In the following chapter, we'll explore how to form secure, healthy relationships by practicing vulnerability, setting boundaries, and recognizing the signs of real connection. For now, remember this: your relationship with yourself is the first and most enduring source of belonging you will ever know. And every small act of care you offer yourself is a step away from isolation and a step toward healing. Chapter 7: Building Trust and Emotional Safety with Others. One of the greatest challenges for someone who has experienced deep loneliness is not simply finding people to connect with, it is learning how to feel safe in that connection. After prolonged emotional isolation or past relational wounds, the idea of opening up again can feel overwhelming, even dangerous. But trust is not an all-or-nothing leap. It is a process, one that unfolds slowly, gently, and with care. In this chapter, we will explore how to build emotionally safe relationships, how to recognize signs of mutual trust, and how to navigate vulnerability without losing yourself. Why emotional safety matters. Emotional safety is the foundation of all healthy, lasting relationships. It is the felt sense that you can be yourself without fear of ridicule or rejection. Your feelings will be acknowledged, not dismissed. You will be listened to, not judged. You are allowed to grow, change, and speak your truth. When emotional safety is present, trust can grow. Without it, even the most frequent or outwardly close relationship can feel distant or anxiety-inducing. Trust is built, not given. Many people think trust must be earned by others, but equally important is your willingness to build it within yourself and with those around you. Trust doesn't mean expecting perfection. It means believing that the other person values you and will try to honor the relationship. Building trust happens through small, consistent actions over time. Showing up when you say you will. Listening attentively without rushing to fix or change. Respecting boundaries, your own and others. Apologizing sincerely when harm is done. Expressing emotions honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. You don't need to trust everyone immediately. Start with safe people and practice connection in small, manageable steps. Signs of a safe relationship. Not all relationships offer emotional safety, and recognizing this helps you choose wisely where to invest your energy. Here are some qualities to look for in emotionally safe relationships. Consistency: the person is reliable, not erratic or unpredictable. Respect: your boundaries, opinions, and emotions are taken seriously. Non-defensiveness: they can hear feedback without attacking or withdrawing. Empathy: they try to understand your experience, even if it's different from theirs. Mutuality: there is a sense of balance, both people give and receive. These are the green lights of connection. When you find even a few of these qualities in someone, you may be in the presence of someone worth trusting. Navigating vulnerability with care. Vulnerability is essential to intimacy, but it must be wise, not reckless. You don't need to share your deepest wounds with someone you barely know. Instead, think of vulnerability as something revealed in layers. How to approach vulnerability safely. Start small. Share a recent feeling or thought, not your life story. Observe their response. Do they listen? Do they respect what you shared? If it feels safe, go deeper over time. If it feels unsafe, it's okay to pause or pull back. Vulnerability is not about overexposure. It's about being real, at a pace that respects both your heart and the relationship. Common fears and how to respond to them. It's natural to feel fear when beginning to trust again. Here are a few common fears and ways to meet them with compassion. Fear: if I open up, I'll get hurt again. Response: yes, it's possible. But you're stronger now, and you can choose who to trust carefully. You're not helpless. Fear: they'll think I'm too much. Response: the right people won't. Being honest about your emotions isn't too much, it's human. Fear: I don't know how to connect. Response: connection is a skill, not a trait. And like any skill, it gets better with practice. Fear: what if they leave? Response: people come and go, but what matters is the quality of the connection, not just its duration. Learning to trust yourself, too. Sometimes the greatest barrier to connection is not distrust of others, but distrust of your own feelings, boundaries, or judgments. Learning to trust yourself is a crucial part of building trust with others. Self-trust means honoring your gut feelings, even if others disagree. Saying no when something doesn't feel right. Acknowledging your needs without shame. Believing that you are capable of healing and growth. When you trust yourself, you become less afraid of disappointment. You know that no matter what happens, you will take care of yourself with integrity and kindness. Repairing trust after it's been broken. All relationships encounter ruptures. What matters is how those ruptures are handled. Trust can often be repaired, but only when both people are committed to honesty, accountability, and change. Steps to repair trust include acknowledging the harm clearly, without defensiveness. Expressing genuine remorse, not just apologies to avoid conflict. Discussing what led to the breach honestly. Making specific changes to restore safety. Allowing time for trust to rebuild naturally. Not all relationships will survive a breach. But even when trust cannot be fully restored, your response can be a powerful act of self-respect and emotional growth. Looking ahead. Trust is not instant. It grows slowly through words, through presence, and through shared experiences that show, you are safe here. You are valued. You are allowed to be human. In the next chapter, we will explore how pain from past relationships can leave wounds that continue to influence how we connect in the present and how to begin healing those wounds with compassion and courage. For now, remember, you are worthy of trust. You are capable of forming safe, secure, and meaningful relationships. And you can begin that journey one small, brave step at a time. Chapter 8, When Connection Hurts, Healing Relationship Wounds. For many people, loneliness is not just about the absence of connection, it's about the presence of pain in past relationships. Trust was extended, but it was betrayed. Love was given, but it was not returned. Emotional needs were voiced, only to be dismissed, manipulated, or ignored. When connection becomes a source of hurt rather than healing, it leaves behind wounds that can shape how we relate for years, even decades. These wounds often become invisible barriers. We long for closeness, but we fear what closeness might bring. In this chapter, we will explore the impact of relationship wounds including betrayal, emotional neglect, and abuse, how they shape attachment patterns, and most importantly, how to begin healing from them. Relational trauma, a deep kind of pain. Relational trauma occurs when emotional or psychological harm is experienced within a trusted relationship. It may involve a single event, like betrayal, or a pattern of behavior, like chronic criticism or neglect. Examples include being manipulated or gaslighted, having your emotions consistently minimized or mocked, being ignored or emotionally abandoned during times of need, experiencing controlling or coercive dynamics, feeling unsafe or hypervigilant around someone you depended on. These experiences can happen in families, romantic relationships, friendships, or even professional environments. And when they happen, they don't just hurt in the moment, they reshape our sense of what connection means. Attachment patterns and emotional wounds. As discussed earlier, our early attachment style plays a major role in how we navigate relationships. But attachment is not fixed. It can evolve through life experiences and through trauma. When emotional wounds go unhealed, they may reinforce or distort attachment in several ways. Anxious attachment may intensify. The fear of abandonment becomes overwhelming, leading to people-pleasing, emotional overdependence, or difficulty tolerating space in relationships. Avoidant attachment may become more rigid. Closeness feels unsafe, so you may withdraw, shut down emotionally, or convince yourself that you don't need anyone. Disorganized attachment often emerges from significant trauma. You may simultaneously crave and fear intimacy, leading to push-pull dynamics that feel confusing and exhausting. These patterns are not character flaws. They are adaptation strategies your mind and body developed to protect you. But they are not the only way to relate. Healing allows you to move toward secure attachment where you can trust, communicate, and connect with greater ease and stability. Recognizing the lingering effects of relationship wounds. Emotional injuries from past relationships can echo into the present in subtle and powerful ways. You may find yourself distrusting people who have done nothing to harm you. Feeling anxious when someone shows interest in you. sabotaging relationships when they get too close, believing that you're unworthy of love or care, being drawn to relationships that recreate familiar pain. These patterns are painful, but they make sense. Your system is trying to protect you from being hurt again. The key is not to shame yourself for these responses but to understand them, and then slowly teach your body and heart that safety is possible again. Healing emotional wounds from past relationships. Healing begins with acknowledging that the pain was real, and that you did not deserve it. From there, healing becomes a layered process that includes grief, boundaries, self-trust, and eventually, the rebuilding of healthy connection. Steps toward healing include naming the harm without minimizing it. Describe what happened and how it affected you. Truth creates clarity. Validating your experience. Just because others may have denied or ignored your pain doesn't mean it was not valid. Your feelings are real. Identifying patterns. What kinds of relationships or behaviors are you drawn to? What role do you often play, example fixer, caregiver, peacemaker? Setting new boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are protection and clarity. They allow you to engage with others from a place of self-respect. Practicing self-compassion. The parts of you that learn to survive relational pain still need care. Be kind to yourself, especially when old patterns show up. Seeking support. Therapy can be incredibly helpful in processing relational trauma. A trusted professional can help you explore your patterns and form new ways of relating. Letting go of old pain without forgetting the lesson. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Healing doesn't require you to forget what happened or to reconcile with those who hurt you. It does require that you stop carrying the wound as if it defines you. Letting go means releasing the story that your worth is based on someone else's failure to see it. Choosing to trust again, carefully and wisely, not blindly. Redefining what love and connection mean for you today. You are allowed to outgrow the dynamics that hurt you. You are allowed to expect more. You are allowed to begin again. You deserve safe and loving relationships. It may take time. You may stumble along the way. But know this, you are not too damaged to love or be loved. What happened to you shaped your past, but it does not have to define your future. You are worthy of relationships where your feelings are heard. Companionship that honors your boundaries. Connection that brings comfort, not confusion. Love that feels safe, mutual, and healing. And all of that is still possible. Step by step. Layer by layer. Looking ahead. Now that we've explored the wounds that make connection difficult, the next chapter will focus on how to move from isolation toward real belonging, not just through individual relationships, but by creating community, meaning, and shared purpose in your everyday life. Healing from connection wounds is hard work. But it is the work that opens the door to something better, not just the absence of loneliness, but the presence of deep, nourishing connection. You deserve that. You are capable of that. And that journey continues. Chapter 9, From Isolation to Belonging, Rebuilding Community. Loneliness does not end the moment you talk to someone or share a meal. What we truly seek is not simply interaction, it's belonging. We want to feel that we are part of something, that we are accepted as we are, and that our presence makes a difference. Belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about being seen, valued, and connected within a shared space, whether that's with one person or within a larger group. If loneliness disconnects us from others and ourselves, then rebuilding community is the act of returning to relationship, purpose, and shared humanity. In this chapter, we explore how to move from isolation toward real connection, offering practical, accessible ways to find and foster community, no matter your starting point. What belonging really means. Belonging is not about popularity or being part of a crowd. It is about emotional inclusion, the experience of being welcomed not for how you perform, but for who you are. When you belong, you feel safe enough to be authentic, supported in times of difficulty, celebrated in your strengths, accepted in your imperfections. You don't have to constantly prove your worth or earn your place. You can simply show up, participate, and be known. Barriers that keep us isolated. Before we dive into how to build community, it's important to acknowledge the internal and external barriers that make this step difficult. Common barriers to connection include fear of rejection or judgment. Belief that you're too different to belong. Social anxiety or difficulty initiating conversations. Lack of trust due to past relational wounds. Feeling out of place in your current environment. Shame about your loneliness. These feelings are not signs of failure. They are human. And they are common. The good news is that they can be addressed not by avoiding connection, but by taking small, intentional steps toward it. Finding community, where to begin. You don't need to wait for the perfect group to appear. Belonging often starts in unexpected places through shared values, consistent interaction, or a common purpose. Here are practical places to begin exploring new connections. Shared interest groups. Join a class, club, or organization centered around something you genuinely enjoy, example writing, gardening, music, volunteering. Faith or spiritual communities. Many people find belonging in churches, meditation circles, or spiritual retreats that align with their values. Support or therapy groups. Groups focused on healing or shared life challenges can be powerful spaces of empathy and authenticity. Local events and community centers. Attend talks, workshops, or meetups in your area. Showing up regularly helps build familiarity and trust. Online communities, used mindfully. While not a replacement for in-person connection, some digital spaces offer meaningful dialogue, shared learning, and support. Cultivating connection through small acts. Belonging doesn't always come from dramatic changes. Often, it grows through small, everyday efforts to be present, engaged, and kind. Try practicing these behaviors. Make eye contact and smile at people in your community. Offer a simple compliment or ask a genuine question. Invite someone for coffee or a short walk, even if it feels awkward. Follow up with someone you've enjoyed talking to. Consistency matters. Be the one who initiates, even when you feel unsure. You may not bond with everyone, and that's okay. You are not trying to connect with everyone, you are trying to find your people. Creating safe and meaningful spaces. If you can't find the kind of community you long for, consider creating it. You don't need a large group, just a willingness to bring people together with intention. Ideas for creating connection. Host a monthly dinner or potluck with a few friends or neighbors. Start a book club, creative group, or discussion circle around a meaningful topic. Organize a walking group, meditation gathering, or coffee meetup. Volunteer for a cause you care about and connect with others who share your values. You don't have to be a natural leader. Just being someone who creates space for authenticity and kindness is enough to draw others in. The role of purpose in belonging. Sometimes the deepest sense of connection doesn't come from being around others, it comes from being part of something bigger than yourself. Purpose gives us direction. It reminds us that our life matters not just to ourselves, but to others. Even in times of solitude, having purpose can sustain our sense of belonging. Ways to rediscover or deepen your purpose. Ask, what do I care about deeply? What breaks my heart or stirs my passion? Reflect on how your experiences, especially your pain, might help someone else. Look for small, consistent ways to serve, support, or create. Purpose is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply about showing up authentically, consistently, and with care. Letting belonging grow slowly. You don't have to rush. You don't have to be socially perfect. You just have to begin with openness, with patience, and with compassion for yourself and others. Relationships take time. Trust takes time. But every conversation, every small gesture, every moment of shared presence plants a seed. Over time, those seeds grow into the roots of belonging. Looking ahead. Moving from isolation to belonging is not about finding a place where you never feel lonely again. It's about building a life where loneliness is no longer your defining experience. It's about creating real, sustainable connection inside yourself and in the world around you. In the next chapter, we will focus on the emotional fuel that keeps you going, motivation and hope. You'll be reminded that even when progress feels slow, your efforts matter. Your journey is real. And you are stronger than you think. Chapter 10, Motivation and Hope. You are seen, you are strong. If you've made it to this chapter, take a moment to pause, not to reflect on what's missing, but to recognize what's present, your strength, your willingness to heal, your courage to face what many avoid. You may not feel strong right now. You may still carry sadness, fear, or doubt. That's okay. Strength is not the absence of struggle. True strength is choosing to keep going even when your heart is heavy. And hope? Hope is not blind optimism. It is the quiet belief that something more is still possible even after disappointment, even after pain. This chapter is your reminder, you are seen. You are strong. And your story is still unfolding. You are more than what you've been through. Loneliness may have shaped you, but it does not define you. You are not just the person who felt forgotten. You are not just the one who was left out, or hurt, or unseen. You are also the person who survived. Who asked hard questions. Who kept showing up in a world that sometimes made it hard to belong. You are someone who dares to feel, to reflect, and to seek more. That matters. That's not weakness. That's resilience. The life you want is still possible. It's easy to believe that it's too late. That too much damage has been done, or too many years have passed. But healing is not limited by time. It's fueled by choice, the decision to take one step forward, even when the path is uncertain. Maybe the life you imagined looks different now. That doesn't mean it's over. It means it's evolving. You can still find real friendships that nourish you. Wake up and feel a sense of purpose. Laugh without guilt or pretense. Feel safe in your own presence. Offer love and receive it fully, freely, and with joy. You are not too late. You are right on time. The life you long for begins not in a sudden breakthrough, but in small, steady acts of faith. You are not alone in this. Others have walked where you are walking now. They have felt the same ache in the silence, the same fear of being unwanted, the same doubt that things could ever feel different. And many of them have found their way back to connection not by being perfect, not by erasing the past, but by choosing hope over hiding, and courage over comfort. You may not see them, but you are walking beside others who understand. And more importantly, you are never alone in your humanity. The strength already inside you. You have already demonstrated courage by facing your loneliness. You could have stayed in distraction, or numbed out, or built more walls. But instead, you chose to turn inward, to look at the truth, and to begin again. That is strength. Strength looks like naming your pain, asking for help, choosing kindness over self-criticism, letting someone see you, trying again, even after you've been hurt. It's quiet, often invisible to others, but it is real. And it is yours. Let this be a turning point. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to change. This moment is enough. You don't need to feel ready to take a step. You only need to take it imperfectly, honestly, and from where you are. Let this be the moment when you begin to believe that your feelings are valid, that your presence matters, that you deserve relationships that honor your heart, that healing is not just possible, it is unfolding, right now. A letter to you, the reader. If I could say one thing to you personally, it would be this. You are not invisible. Your loneliness is not a reflection of your value. It is a call, a deeply human signal that you were made for connection. You have what it takes to build a life where you are seen, where you are held, and where you belong. And if you doubt that, let this book be your reminder. You are worthy. You are strong. You are not alone. Keep going. The best parts of your story may still be ahead. And you have already taken the most important step, you've chosen to believe there is more. Let that belief carry you forward. Let it guide your healing. Let it become the beginning of something beautiful. Chapter 11, Sustainable Change, Living a Connected Life. Healing from loneliness is not a one-time event. It's a journey, a series of choices made over time that gradually reshape how you relate to yourself, to others, and to the world. The goal is not to eliminate all moments of solitude or emotional discomfort. The goal is to build a life where loneliness no longer defines you. This chapter is about how to sustain the progress you've made, how to nurture emotional health, and how to live with a sense of connection not just occasionally, but as a way of being. Sustainable change starts small. The desire to feel better quickly can be strong, especially after years of emotional isolation. But sustainable change isn't about speed. It's about consistency. Small, regular practices are more powerful than dramatic but temporary efforts. They build the emotional habits and relational skills that create lasting connection. Begin by asking yourself, what daily or weekly practices help me feel more connected to myself? What relationships nourish me and how can I invest more in them? What boundaries protect my energy and emotional well-being? What activities give me a sense of meaning or belonging? There is no one-size-fits-all answer. Your version of a connected life will be unique. What matters is that it feels like yours. Emotional health is a practice. Just like physical health, emotional well-being requires attention and maintenance. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can take care of your inner world in ways that keep you grounded and open to connection. Key elements of emotional health include self-awareness, regularly checking in with your feelings and needs. Self-compassion, responding to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. Resilience, accepting setbacks without giving up or shutting down. Boundaries, knowing where you end and others begin. Authenticity, living in alignment with your values and truth. These aren't ideals to master, they're tools to return to, especially during difficult times. Building and maintaining meaningful relationships. Connected lives are built through intentional, reciprocal relationships. That means surrounding yourself with people who see you, respect you, and accept you and doing the same for them. Sustain meaningful connection by checking in regularly with people you care about. Being honest about what you feel, even when it's hard. Showing up in small ways through presence, kindness, and listening. Asking for help when you need it. Repairing conflict with care, not avoidance. Healthy relationships don't require perfection. They require presence, trust, and a willingness to grow together. Let go of the fantasy of never lonely again. Even the most emotionally connected people experience loneliness from time to time. Life brings transitions, losses, and moments of emotional disconnection. That doesn't mean you've failed, it means you're human. What matters is that you now have the tools to respond to loneliness, rather than be defined by it. You can name it. You can soothe it. You can reach out for support. You can reconnect first with yourself, then with others. Loneliness may still visit, but it no longer has to stay. Create a life that reflects who you are becoming. As you move forward, your life can become an expression of your healing. The way you choose your relationships, the way you care for yourself, the way you participate in community, these are all ways of living out your transformation. Ask yourself, what kind of relationships do I want to cultivate? What boundaries help me stay true to myself? What gives me a sense of purpose or contribution? How do I want to feel in my daily life? Let your answers shape your schedule, your decisions, your habits. A connected life is built not in theory but in how you live each day. Continued growth is not linear. You may have days where the old patterns resurface. You may feel disconnected again, even after progress. This is normal. Growth is not a straight line. It's a spiral, circling back, learning more deeply, and choosing again. When this happens, return to what you've learned. Pause. Reflect. Reconnect. Each return strengthens your foundation. Each choice to keep going reinforces your freedom. Looking forward with confidence. You now hold the understanding, the tools, and the self-awareness to build a life where connection is possible, even joyful. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to feel confident every day. You only need to trust that the work you've done matters and that you are worthy of the relationships and life you're creating. In the final chapter, we'll bring this journey full circle. You'll be reminded that loneliness was never your identity. It was a season, a signal, a call for something more. And now, that more is within reach because you've done the brave work of listening, healing, and choosing to begin again. Conclusion: beyond the silence, a new story begins. You've walked a long road through questions, through truth, through pain, and hope. You've looked inward with courage. You've reached into the past and touched the parts of yourself that were once hidden, perhaps even feared. And now, you arrive here not at the end of your story, but at the beginning of a new one. Loneliness may have shaped part of your past, but it does not have to define your future. You are no longer trapped in silence. You are no longer waiting to be rescued. You are becoming your own safe place. Your own companion. Your own foundation for connection. This book has not offered easy fixes or shallow advice. It has invited you into the real, often messy, always sacred process of reconnection with yourself, with others, with meaning. You are no longer alone. Even if there are still quiet nights. Even if you still feel unsure. Even if you haven't figured it all out. You are no longer alone because now, you are with yourself. You are present to your experience. You are listening to your truth. You are choosing honesty over hiding. Compassion over criticism. Growth over resignation. And those choices, repeated in small ways every day, are how we heal. How we build a life rooted not in performance or perfection, but in presence. A life of connection is possible. Let this truth settle deep into your heart. You are capable of living a connected life. Not because your circumstances are perfect. Not because you've eliminated every fear. But because you now know how to stay grounded in your worth and move forward step by step, breath by breath, truth by truth. You can build friendships that see the real you. You can create routines that nourish your inner world. You can let go of roles and masks that no longer serve you. You can be part of something meaningful, something real. And every act of presence, vulnerability, and kindness brings that life closer. Gratitude for the journey. Thank you for walking this path courageously, honestly, imperfectly. Thank you for being willing to feel, to face, and to change. This is no small task. This is transformation. If you ever find yourself doubting your progress, remember this. You've explored your loneliness instead of running from it. You've learned new ways to relate to yourself and others. You've started to shift patterns that may have lasted for years. You've chosen growth. And for that, you deserve not only healing but celebration. Your new story starts now. Beyond the silence is not a destination. It is a way of being. A way of living where you listen to your heart and honor what it tells you. A way of loving where you no longer betray your own needs for the sake of belonging. A way of showing up that says, I am here. I am real. And I deserve to be met. So let this be the beginning. Of deeper friendships. Of emotional safety. Of inner peace. Of meaningful connection. You don't need to rush. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to keep choosing the truth and choosing yourself. This is your story now. And it is still being written with every step forward, every moment of courage, every breath you take toward the life you deserve. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are just beginning. And your beginning is beautiful.